In iCON 2023, as we try to redefine the health professions assessment for the digital era, let's dive into reshaping TED Talk on the theme Technology-Driven Assessment. To chair the session, I invite Dr. Ram Nair, CEO, Jeeva Rakshata Trust, Bangalore. And for our first talk on SIMCAPTURE for performance assessment, we have with us Mr. Balaganesh from Team Leardal. And our next talk is going to be on AR and VR for SIM-based assessment. And for that, from Medism, we have their CEO, Dr. Adith. I invite Dr. Rita from MGM College to join the session as a chairperson.
Bala, you don't need any introduction. You good to go? Please take the stage. One line. Know Bala for last 6 years. Always answers with a smile and equipment when you cry for help, especially for charitable causes. We've been, meeting each other in many educational sessions, many service sessions to the community, like training schools and others. So thank you so much for all the support over the years. And he dresses the best. Have you noticed that?
Not at all.
Over to you, Bala.
Thank you, sir, for the introduction. Good morning, all. I would like to thank Dr. Mahalakshmi, Dr. Rajkumar, and the entire iCON 2023 team for giving us this opportunity. In Leardal, we believe that innovation is not just the technology edge. It is the impact what we are able to create in the outcome. With this, I would like to introduce the technology SIMCAPTURE, which is a powerful tool to enhance the performance assessment of medical students in simulation-based education and in competency-based medical education. The primary goal of a performance assessment is not just to evaluate, but to inspire the medical students for a continuous growth. So that should be the prime goal, and this SIMCAPTURE is able to provide you real-time feedback and evaluation results, and also we'll be able to track students from day one they join the college till they pass out, and to make sure that every student has acquired the required competency, and which really has an outcome in the patient care. So now with NMC bringing up the competency-based medical education, there has been a challenge for faculties, students, administrators on how are we going to evaluate the competency, and how are we going to make sure that every student is able to acquire the required competency. So let's see the challenge one by one. Normally what happens is you conduct a skill session where you have around batch of 30, and NMC has recommended 4 to 8 mannequins for batch of 150 to 250. And 30 students assume at the higher level of having 8 mannequins of an IV arm. Let's take an example. In a 1.5 hour session, faculty demonstrates for 45 minutes, and each student will hardly get 1 or 2 pricks to puncture the mannequin and learn. And that is not really sufficient for student to learn. And when you're trying to increase the quantity of mannequin, the budget shoots up. And that is not going to allow the management to run the organization in a profitable manner. So one challenge is the resource and the time. Within 1.5 hour time, how much a student can practice it is a question mark. And the next thing is, are we allowing the student to access the skill lab after school hours? At least in India, it's a question mark. After 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, no medical college is open, it gets shut down. And even if a student has a personal interest to come and learn again and again, they don't have an access, and that's a limitation what we have from the student side. From a faculty side, what we see is it's takes huge amount of labor to prepare and programs, to prepare a curriculum for an implementation. And if at all you want to run an OSCE session, you need to prepare a checklist, and that will be an analog, paper checklist. You need to keep printing it, so you need to take more time in preparation, setting up the OSCE stations, and conducting an OSCE station is going to be a big challenge, having around 10-15 stations, planning it, and to make sure that the faculties are not getting burnout. And you need to evaluate then and there. So that puts too much amount of load on the faculties, which is not allowing most of the faculties to come back to an OSCE exam evaluation methodology or any other skill-based learning. And the other challenge, what we see from administrator side is, you need to get the report, you need to monitor where your students are there. Right now, the information what goes to the top level management is a subjective report or the regular assessment. It doesn't provide an objective feedback, or it doesn't provide as a correct position where we are standing at, purely due to the data collection methodology, how we are collecting the data. So most of the challenges what we speak are our assumptions. And one good thing is, when we are training around batch of 150 students or 250 students, the amount of data what we can collect can provide us a deeper insights. The curriculum gets evolved only when we have a deeper insights about the student status, what the student is doing, what level they are standing at, what stops them from acquiring the knowledge. So we need to have a deeper insights. That will help in publishing a lot of research papers or to do more research in the academics. So what a technology can offer to you is what we're going to brief it right now. So instead of a product demo or promotion of a product, I would rather tell what we did. In India, we launched SIMCAPTURE in the year 2022, last year. We did a pilot study with Madras Medical College, thanks to Dr. Kavita ma'am for supporting us. And we did it in Chettinad, we did it in AVMCH and CMC Vellore. We had trained around 700 students on multiple skills. So what we did is, first we enrolled the students in the course. We built a course. It was a tough job because it was a one-time role to put it in the system. And we built the checklist and we validated it at multiple institutes. And then as and when we enrolled the students, within, there was a 2 weeks gap from the day of enrollment to the session. So students went through the documents. They had the e-learning materials, and the e-learning tutorials were shared through SIMCAPTURE. And on the day of the session, students were doing pre-tests. The scoring was so dynamic, so as and when the students are doing the examination, the faculty are getting the score. So the benefit of this one is the faculty knows before going to the session what are the shortcomings, and they can focus on those shortcomings here. And then next is faculty demonstrates it once again based on the scoring what we get in pre-test. And then the next step was, after the faculty demonstration is over, faculty moves out of that place. And students start to practice using peer-to-peer technique. So this keeps the students away from the supervision pressure. And students have the video data through which they can do any reference. And this allows the students to practice as many number of times. So with this SIMCAPTURE technology providing an access and privacy security to your skill lab, you can open your skill lab 24/7. Currently, we are doing this project at Meenakshi Medical College, Kanchipuram, where after we delivered the program, the next day was a public holiday. We could see students coming to the medical college because most of the students are staying in the hostel there. They were accessing the skill lab and they opened the skill lab. And as a real-time administrator, I was able to get the feedback as and when the students are doing it here. So we see that we are doing it in a right direction. So the purpose of Leardal doing this exercise is to show the best practices. And then what happens is, once the student is confident, he or she goes for a formative examination. That is a self-recorded video examination. So this self-recording facility is there in the mobile, which is a cheat-proof system. So normally what happens is when in one of the institute where we did the pilot project, we saw the internet was fluctuating, so students were recording in the mobile without the app, and they were editing it, and they were trying to upload it. So because this requires a good internet connection, so there's a cheat proof. Even there's a drop for a second or so, the student needs to redo it, the formative assessment here. So at the end of formative assessment, we score the students. Moment we score, the students get what is the scoring sheet. Now, initially what happens is when we did the first skill and second skill, students did not take peer-to-peer very seriously. They took it for fun. Moment we shared the formative assessment scoring sheet, from third and fourth exercise onwards, they were so serious. And they were really able to immerse into the training. I'll show you a few videos subsequently. And then end of it, after 30 days or 45 days, we tried to do an OSCE station, where we had, though we did not do 15 stations, we just had 4-5 stations here. And we could see a significant improvement because students have access to the mannequins, they can keep practicing peer-to-peer, and there's a significant improvement in the score during the summative examination here. So to do all this, you need to have a system which has the facility of learning management, which has a facility to record and view, which should have a facility to give real-time feedback. Because as and when you evaluate, you can give feedback to the students. If they want to redo it, they can redo it. And you need to have an automation in examination. That is OSCE, which can be very well automated. And it also allows you to do an virtual OSCE. That faculty, you can come sitting in a remote location to come as a standardized patient. So I'll just run through a few slides. So this is what we did at CMC Velo. We, though there's no audio, is it possible to give an audio? The IV skill was being recorded and can just lower it down. The IV skill was recorded through Payton's 4-step approach, which NMC is recommending it, and was uploaded. As and when the students are doing it, they'll get this link, they can review it, and they can acquire the knowledge. Yeah, sure. So this is the peer-to-peer learning. You can see how the students are getting immersed. I took it without their knowledge. Later I informed them, got their consent, how deep and immersed they are into it. So this is one really key thing, pulling the students and making them into immersive. And this is a formative assessment. So this is an actual examination they're doing through video. I'm just skipping it for the lack of time. I can share you the link which you can view it. So once they are done, this is how the faculty screen is going to look. They have the OSCE checklist coming up. As in when the students are doing, you can mark the OSCE checklist. And this is virtual OSCE. We have Dr. Ibor from CMC Velo. So the student was shocked to see her faculty coming as in a virtual environment. She never expected it. And we also one video of Dr. Kavita ma'am. She has a personal experience, she can share it. The student did not expect vice principal to come as a standardized patient virtually. So first few seconds, they took time to settle it, and then they immersed into the situation. Because when we took a feedback, what were the shortcomings? They said in mannequins, we do not feel any emotions. These emotions can be overcome with the help of hybrid, having a standardized patient, having a communication, and doing it here. This is a good video, but lack of time, I'm not able to present it. But how I can share it in the group. And this is a pre-test evaluation where we see the data, how many students have done right, how many students have gone wrong. This will help us to understand whether it's an individual student's understanding or the whole group hasn't understand the things right. And this is about the OSCE checklist. And you get these scores. And this is about the individual student statistics. How much they have got in peer-to-peer, how much they have got in formative assessment and summative assessment. As in, you can keep doing peer-to-peer as many number of times, so you get the cumulative scores. So you can see the score graph, candlestick graph. All right, thank you. On time, I guess.
Thank you so much, Bala. You kind of took away, like Avinash Suppe sir yesterday was talking about technology and how can technology take some of the burden away from us. So you showed a good model of how the data capture, the video recording, assessing them both for formative and summative, a lot of the mundane repetitive data can be taken away and put into understandable easy formats for us to manage them better. Looks like a wonderful product. Do you have all the modules for NMC skills in this?
Okay, let me make it clear. Leardal is providing only the platform.
Okay.
The courses and modules are customizable.
Okay.
However, we are working with AVMCH. So AVMCH has prepared a certain curriculum, and we are working with MMC with certain departments, and they have the curriculum here. So Leardal also offers, but that is not part of the SIMCAPTURE. This we are providing
So
additional.
you're just providing the platform, others will create the modules.
You have
in
an
it.
option, you can build your own contents,
Yeah.
but we do have working with AVMCH in building up the contents here so that we can provide as an add-ons.
Thank you so much. Ma'am, you had a question?
Yeah, not a question. Actually, I wanted to say, because we have used this software quite extensively and for training a large number of students. That bootcamp data he showed is from AVMC. See, it gives us a lot of information, provided we have the inclination to look at it. It tells us how one student is performing across all stations. So we'll really know that where he stands with regard to his competence. It also tells us in one station how all these fellows are performing. So if we know that step 3, most of the fellows have omitted, then I really know that there is some problem in that step 3. Either my question is wrong or I have not taught it. I need to look at it whether it has been done or not. It also gives us what he showed us, right? The candlestick graph. So in each station, what is the 25th percentile? What is the 75th percentile? What is the median score, what they have done? So I actually kind of know this is too easy a walk-away station. Everybody gets the ceiling. Or this is too tough a station that everybody kind of touches, they are near the floor. So this floor and roofing is also possible. So we can actually do a lot of data analytics with regard to the performance appraisal of students using this software. So far, imagine we were doing it in ASCII in paper, right? We were writing each step and doing it, and it used to be a very painstaking calculation to do this. But with this, we are able to do this much more real time. And we kind of get the data analysis done in 1 or 2 days itself. We'll really know that what we are looking at. So that is what is the beauty of this technology. And as we rightly said, Leardal is not selling mannequins to us, but they are more into skill development. They are our knowledge partners. So that's how we got them to do this particular session in this conference, so that people are aware that there is a scope just beyond buying mannequins. It is actually how you utilize what is the available resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? One last question.
It is not a question, but just to share, as he said, the immersive learning happened with the students. First of students, whenever you introduce something new, they have their own inhibitions and they fail to come to us. But then as and when he said, like in other college also on a holiday they came, the same way our students also came forward, and each student was having a hands-on experience with the mannequins. In our setup, where there are enough number of patients to do this on a mannequin, again it take, why madam should we come and do on this? We already have patients. That also happens, but real immersive learning happened with this. Thank you Balaganesh for coordinating with us. Thank you.
I just want to comment, yesterday Dr. Raj also presented in his project that he had used this, but we did not know how he did it. Today we got a much deeper picture of what it was. Thank you for that. And I think this is very close to the workplace-based assessment, that's telehealth assessment, because the people are doing it on their own. So you're getting a 360-degree feedback. So that I think is going to be a very good assessment tool. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll just close it with a note. The amount of data we got with this 4 or 5 pilot projects, we have 4 presentations coming up in the Ottawa Healthcare Assessment Conference this Feb. And we had 2 award-winning presentations at AIMS Kalyani in Similis. And I think hope Dr. Raj also gets award today because it provides an in-depth data insights for us to rework and do it here. And just to comment on Dr. Kavita ma'am, just one feedback. What we saw is in MMC, we had the students who were doing it. It happened in every college. They did not go for lunch. And students, they said, we want to practice again and again. And we were not able to send them off lunch because we need to prepare for the next session. And they said, we are not going it. Like, we never seen such an attraction towards training, because in every college, the students are waiting to learn. Its only thing is that we are not able to provide them the adequate infrastructure and solutions. Yeah? And students are very much comfortable with the technology. Right. Thank you.
I request Dr. Adith, CEO of Medism, to join in. He will be giving a talk on virtual reality and augmented reality for SIM-based assessment. The session is for 15 minutes.
So while Adith is getting his tech ready, he's a surgeon who's jumped into a virtual environment. They are creating multiple modules for sort of years 1 to 2, 2 to 3, across all the way to actual immersive learning for people with haptic and other feedback as well. Just for clarification, VR is virtual reality, which most of your children are doing in the video game environment, putting something on. You are a character in that environment. AR is augmented, where you're getting some feedback also. MR is where you're actually doing something, like, for example, driving a car in a virtual environment, and the hurdles and other obstructions could be real too. Not everything is virtual in a mixed reality environment. So the progression is towards mixed reality. Currently, a lot of military training happens in the mixed reality environment, where you can actually get hurt, you can fall over, you can break your limb while wearing a piece which gets you to see what is outside, and the virtual components coming through as well. Over to you, Adith. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Good afternoon to everyone here. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to address such an august gathering. I would like to probably give you a small introduction to my company before I start. Like sir mentioned, we work on virtual reality-based training for undergraduates predominantly. So we are essentially a healthcare training company which also deals with haptics and virtual reality to make comprehensive medical training accessible across the globe. So before we start, right, I would like to actually point out that I'll be wearing 2 hats today and using it very interchangeably. Like sir mentioned, I do come from a medical background, so I was a surgeon. That's where my interest peaked. I went into surgical simulation initially, and then based on a lot of understanding of how simulation technology worked, I realized that it had to start from the grassroots level. So we then started focusing on grassroots level training and started moving on towards the future. So I'll be wearing that hat, and I'll also be hopefully trying to evangelize VR to a certain extent in this address. I'm sure now everyone's familiar with the concept of virtual reality and augmented reality, but nevertheless, I'll just go over that really quickly. Ram sir gave a very good intro. I'll just add on to that. To make it, to put it across very crisply, virtual reality creates a fully immersive virtual environment, which means you're disconnected from wherever you are. So you are at one place, but you might assume you can be at Mars, can be in a theater room, whatever the environment the headset creates for you. Augmented reality is where you're still in connect with your existing reality, but you can see what's happening around you and have additional information. So basically it augments whatever you already see. Then we have mixed reality, which is where in virtual reality we can bring in references to existing physical markers inside your environment. So that's the blurring of the lines which sir was speaking to, which is where eventually all training will head towards, when you have the best of the touch and the sensations, and you also have the entire environment. So that will be the gold standard of simulation that we'll all aspire to in years. So that essentially makes virtual reality a stepping stone, and mixed reality the target for the longer run. Of course, benefits over existing realities, I'm not going to go over that too much in detail. I want to just mention a few items here. Infrastructure requirements are a lot easier to handle. You have a lot of real-time tracking and cloud compatibility. detailed analytics, which we'll go over in much greater depth. So you can, the biggest advantage would be the scale you can operate at, meaning with the same setup, you keep adding the amount of training you can do or you can provide to your students. And of course, each institution can modify the content according to its own requirements, which is an absolute must when we are working with medical institutions. So now let us come to the core focus. So competency assessment, I would say, is probably one of the biggest areas of thrust when it comes to using virtual reality, because we have a lot of virtual assessment tools which we have used on computers. So that this is a bringing to life of that same technology, where you have inbuilt analytics and feedback systems which provide reports right when the user finishes. So that was actually the biggest advantage when we started using computerized questionnaires. So right when you finish, you didn't have to wait for an examiner to come back, tell you what you did right. You will know right away, and that's when like the learning cycle is complete right at that point. So that also covers the instant feedback. And of course, the advantages to the instructors and the institutions and the students far outweigh what the requirements are to implement these kind of models. I think what makes VR special when it comes to competency assessment is that you can trigger an entirely dedicated simulation environment, which means you have control over every single action which is being made in that environment, which is not applicable in any other technology, I would say, in the sense you can track how much a person is moving, what kind of, right to the point where what's the heart rate of the person using it and the breath rate of the person when they're performing a procedure. So that's the amount of data which VR can essentially provide us. And there's a lot of focus on quantitative data when we traditionally focus our training. But with VR, to give you a quick example, we are looking at maybe a catheterization procedure, or when we are handling any sterile objects, for example. We always track whether the catheter has been inserted, but whether there was any movement of the catheter in such a way that the tip might have accidentally brushed something else. That's not something which we can track with any other mode of technology. So that is where these kind of nuances of the technology play a great role in furthering the assessment or the depth of assessment that we can carry out. So actually I wanted to make this a little bit of a fun exercise. I may be a little off the mark, but I'm erring on the conservative estimate. Since you're all simulation trainers here, you will probably be in agreement with this. So in a medical institution, right, we're looking at maybe 150 students a batch. Of course, there are also now 250 in a lot of institutions, and we seem to keep pushing the numbers up without focusing on the required infrastructure. So according to NMC, we have 56 skills spread across 4 years. I'm just averaging it out to 14 a year. And then setting up of simulation, I know it takes much larger time, but I wanted to play down around the cautious side and say, let's say 2 minutes per simulation. Time required to assess per student is going to be 10 minutes, especially when we want the assessor to be involved in a competency-based medical education model. And suppose if the student, let's assume few of the students want multiple attempts, they want to improve, and then that's where the second attempt comes in. So let's average it at 5 minutes. So overall time you're looking at is 17 minutes for one such skill. I have not even included the overall briefing, the debriefing, because that is common across all methodologies, meaning irrespective of whether it's going to be mannequins, whether it's going to be the questionnaire-based training, which was the previous gen. Everyone requires the briefing and the post-debriefing. So that and the data interpretation, management for the instructors, all of that falls in line with that. So let us not take that into account for this, but actually just averaging this 17 minutes across 14 students 14 skills for 150 students actually comes to 35,700 minutes or 600 hours roughly. And that is for one batch. And we are only looking at MBBS. In a university, we have 4 years. You have nursing students, allied health sciences. Your laptop running out of power, you might want to plug it in. No, I'm good. Message, 47 seconds to power off. Oh, does anyone have a charger? 38 now. I understand. I think, I'll probably get the charger. Now this I'll carry on for the remaining 20 seconds, I'm assuming. So basically what this provides is a great dependency on time. And we all know that the instructors' times are probably the most scarce resource when it comes to medical institutions. We all often tend to be balancing this aspect of our medical career along with various other facets, be it our clinical practice or like the teaching aspects, which are other responsibilities we have in the institution. I think that powered off. Okay. Okay, yeah, okay, so the display powered off. Great. But yeah, so now getting back on track, now we know the kind of time dependency it takes to actually implement. So while we have been able to identify certain advantages of previous generations of training, the sudden thrust on competency assessment has actually brought to light a model which was designed around a much maybe lower numbered cohorts, which was essentially how the Western education system worked, where it used to be maybe instructor-trainee ratio of 1:5, 1:6, and you could have mannequins. So essentially when you're looking at 150 and 250 students, while we may be able to implement the resources or the infrastructure, when it comes to the instructor's times, it's still always the biggest hurdle which we need to cross. And that is where I say technology makes a huge difference. So I wanted to actually go over this in two different facets. One would be the merits of the various systems that we tend to use. Like I mentioned, we have evolved over time and basically categorize that into three systems. One is a questionnaire-based assessment, one is an instructor-observed assessment, and finally now the newer tech, I would say virtual reality-based assessment for lack of a better term. So I think when we look at the first option, simulation component, we are all here because we have, I think now there's an industry-wide agreement or the fraternity-wide agreement that simulation-based training is the norm and is the standard that we all aspire to. So that is taken out of question when you're doing a questionnaire-based assessment. Even if they were trained, unless the assessment happens in a simulation environment, you will not really know how they perform. So that is a lacuna with the first type. However, where knowledge assessment happens, the instructor-observed assessment can actually handle knowledge and cognitive assessment as well, but it again puts a greater dependency on their time. So which is why I did not want to include that into the system. I get 2 minutes. All right. And of course, I think then we have the instructor bias, which is only observant with instructor-dependent systems. But where it's a questionnaire or it's a entirely VR-based assessment, you take away that aspect of the overall issue. I think one of the mentions yesterday I did observe with during Avinash's talks was AI helping with qualitative assessment. I think one of the areas where we are really will benefit with the blossoming of AI is that we have, I think, a lot of data which is being gathered during the process of each student performing whichever experience. That leads us to being able to track and develop for the system to tell us what is the best way to perform certain experiments. I think I will not really spend too much time on this, on the feasibility of systems. I will probably just observe the intensity of the requirements when it comes to instructor-observed assessments. I think that's one of the members from the table calling to tell me time's up. But I will nevertheless plow through. I will not spend too much time on this. I think I just wanted to stop by on one thing. Now, giving performance assessment at the end of an attempt is fairly common to all systems. But students enjoy looking at their assessment the second they're done with the experience, knowing where they did wrong, kind of motivates them to do it again right away, multiple experiences. Again, not dependent on anyone else being there to self-improve is one thing which always drives them. And the dashboards are again now a common feature across all medium. I do not want to spend too much time on this. This is one area I'll just take 20 seconds more of your time with, Because one of the things we noticed was when you're building these kind of assessment metrics, right, there are different focus areas for different institutions. When we build it on VR, what happens is essentially you break down each process. I think like Balaganesh mentioned, you tend to require the institutional input to identify which are the areas of focus, which are the areas of concern, or like where that can be built in from each institution can define their own areas of focus, their own areas of concern, meaning they can then take up area focused debriefing session later on with the students rather than grossly over spending their time towards a debriefing session. And I think with that, I'm going to just finalize. I think it would be amiss of me if I did not take this opportunity to kind of just showcase that we do have a lab already set up. People often tend to ask me whether this is a generated image. I do want to clarify this is an actual picture of our virtual reality lab at Puducherry Institute of Medical Sciences.
Thank you, Adith.
Yes.
I can verify that I've also seen
Yes.
the place, so that is real. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I don't know how many, can I have a show of hands, how many of you have actually gone outside and had a look at this virtual reality? 1, 2, 3. A few, but the majority haven't. Just as medical educators and students of medicine and other healthcare specialties, just go in there and try their otoscope module. You literally stand inside the external auditory canal. You've got the tympanum at a touching distance, and the graphical reconstruction is amazing. So how much it brings difficult areas of the anatomy or some of the skills closer to you and easier to use is wonderful how things have developed. I would straight away go on to the audience to see if there are any questions, please, because we've got less time, so 2 questions are allowed. Any questions? They're all stunned by the technology, it looks like. Thank you so much, Adith.
Thank you so much, sir.
There's one question.
It's like one technical thing. When you're using the goggle, within 20 minutes, most of the people get like either giddiness or headache. I coming up with this thing because I visited about 7 countries, including Germany. The latest technology also, for me, within 7 minutes, I got headache. How can you say that people are like going to use it for 4 hours?
So first off the bat, we do not advocate 4 hours as well. Most of our modules do end within 15 minutes to 20 minutes. And we have over, I would say, 2,500 to 3,000 users on our platform. We've not had a single issue with vertigo which is induced. So a lot of the vertigo, this thing ended with the previous generation of headsets. That mainly happens when the frame rate and the refresh rate is pretty low. Now with the newer generation of headsets, that issue has been entirely tackled. So there are still people who may have those issues with prolonged use, but that doesn't impact anyone when it's under 15-20 minutes, which is essentially the time taken to train on one skill at a go. Yeah.
I'm really tracking this with the students, so it's because
Thank you so much. Sorry, I think I'll have to end it there. You can continue the conversation over a cup of coffee. Thank you so much.
I request our
Thank you very much.
chairperson to honor our speakers, Dr. Adith and Dr. Bala. Yeah. To honor our chairpersons, I invite Dr. V.N. Mahalakshmi, Professor of Pediatric Surgery and Dean Health Professions Education, Arupade Medical College, Puducherry.